Hello and welcome to Integral Leadership in Action, Writer Support Pod. This is Bet. We're going to hand it over to Dr. Jane Simmons for using
Great.
AI in writing.
Well, thank you, Bet, and thanks to all of you for being here. We're very excited to share our experience with you. Just to give you a little background, Gary and I are both retired Unity ministers, been in ministry for, in Gary's case, about 45 plus years, and with me, about almost 30. And we have created a program that we work with folks who are in the New Thought realm called Integral Ministry Practice. And it's based on Ken Wilber's work. When Gary was going through his doctoral program, he did his dissertation on integral ministry, and Ken was on his dissertation committee. And so we've had a lot of back and forth with Ken over the years. And in fact, he's one of our luminaries in our course and just spent time with us on Saturday with our class to meet the students and answer their questions. And, so the work we do is really undergirded by a lot of Ken's work and his theories. But we've taken it sort of beyond to the next level. And that's what Gary's book is about. So I'm going to let him say more about that. But we are both delighted to be here. And as I mentioned, Gary is the author of this book, and I have been in a very supporting role with doing the editing and fine tuning of the book. And so we're both very involved in this project, but this is his baby. So I'm going to ask Gary to share his screen, and I'm just going to go over some general stuff, and then I'm going to hand it over to Gary to be more specific. So we're looking at using AI in our integral writing and how we can do that. And what I want to say is that we're talking specifically about new nonfiction writing here. And so we're going to be focusing on nonfiction. As I mentioned, next month, Bets will be talking a lot more about the creative aspect of it with fictional writing, but also having science be a part of that. It's very interesting how she's using AI in that work. So the first thing I want to say is that AI is not a replacement for authorship. I think that's really important to get out right at the beginning. It does not take the place of your authentic voice. And you really have to be careful that you really become aware of that and you stay with your authentic voice and letting AI be the research assistant, if you will, on that. Because if you let it just take over and write it for you, the work comes across as contrived. It really loses its life, I think, is the way I think of it. And I noticed something that AI, though, at least in our case, tends to really come across as dramatic in its writing, like about three very short, hard-hitting sentences that, say that just kind of hit hard. And some of that is really good. It's some of it kind of goes, whoa, yeah, that's good. But after a while, as the editor, I got to tell you, I got very annoyed with that. It was like, oh, there it is again. It just really way too much. Way too much drama. And so I had to really rewrite a lot of it because that just went beyond how we like to write, how Gary likes to write. It just didn't seem like it was his voice. And in fact, I've gotten to the point since working with AI that if I'm reading a blog by someone or things that people are posting, I can tell that if AI has written it. I've started to see its patterns and started to notice that that's an AI written, I'm sure, at least some of it, you can tell. And then I notice my interest kind of, lowers at that point when I see that it's totally AI generated. So you don't want it to replace your authentic voice, but if you use it correctly, what it does is amplifies your authentic voice. So you can change slides. Um, you can amplify your voice, which is so exciting. This is the real gift that it can have for you. So you want to use it as a tool, not as a ghostwriter in that sense. Because here's the thing, it makes a wonderful research assistant. Wonderful research assistant. It can really speed things up, but it can't replace your lived experience. It can't know your stories unless you tell it what those stories are. You have to teach it that. So our job as writers is to really stick with working with meaning and depth and originality, those kind of things. And you just can't let AI write it all for you. You have to do the editing. So, and be mindful that AI will give you some compliments to try to get on your good side. The first time it did that, I said something to it like, okay, I want you to write something in the voice of Reverend Dr. Jane Simmons, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted to see what it would do. And it answered, oh, yes, I can see why you would like to have this written in Reverend Dr. Jane's voice. She has a very warm style and she shares spiritual principle, very understandable way. And it went on and on and on. I was like, oh, I can't believe this. So don't fall for it, right? I mean, it's nice to be supported, but you got to be mindful that, this is not, it's kind of, trying to get on your good side. So let's talk about how you train AI when you're working with nonfiction. And you begin by feeding it samples of your writing, samples of your voice, all of those things, your preferred structures, how you like to write it, even your um, philosoph philosophical framework, if that's appropriate. You want to really get all of that in there. You tell it, okay, this is my voice, and I want you to analyze it. I want you to mirror it as you're making summaries about this. And you upload all of your work, all of your that's relevant, transcripts to videos that you've done, handouts that you've created. And we had a huge body of that work from our course that we teach. So Gary just had lots and lots and lots that he could upload. You can tell it to use Chicago style formatting and how to do the footnotes and all of that. So, and you'll hear more about this when Gary's specifically talking about how he used it in writing the book. So you can tell it to rewrite a section. If it comes up with something and you go, no, take this out, rewrite this in using my work, use my words, and it'll do it. It'll do it. So you have to give AI explicit instructions. And if you do that, it will follow what you have said. If you say, keep all this content, but improve the organization of the material, it's not organized properly. Another good thing you can do is ask for transition paragraphs. Very good at that. Can you give me a transition paragraph that takes me from this topic to this topic? And then you read what it comes up with, and again, you have to edit it. But it can help you to organize your work in a very coherent way, which is one of the real gifts of this. And as a book coach, I mean, I trained to be a book coach that does exactly this kind of work, where I'm helping authors organize their nonfiction work in a way that goes very coherently into the next piece. And AI does a beautiful job of that. And I'm impressed with how it does. But you still have to edit it and make sure that you're resonating with you. So you upload the content that you've written, you ask AI to organize it, and then you edit it. You always have to edit your work. Don't just assume that AI has it covered or has written something you want. It can be a great help for this, but you need to rewrite things in your own voice. Okay, you don't want to just let it do that. So we had to continually edit this work. And here's what we discovered as we went along. It was making stuff up, you see, like that was not true. And so part of the work is training AI not to do that, but also to only work with the material that's being uploaded. It'll take license and make stuff up. Um, we discovered that it was creating footnotes to things that didn't exist, weirdly. And one of them was attributed to one of our friends and colleagues who's another luminary in our course. And AI referenced a writing in her name that I had never heard of before. And so I emailed her and I said, "Is this something you've written that I can find online? Is it a title of a video you created?" And she said, "I have never written or recorded anything with that name, but if I was going to write or speak on the topic, I would definitely use that title. I like it." And so at that moment, I said, aha. As a nonfiction editor, I realized I needed to question everything. You can change them.
Okay.
Question everything that I was not completely familiar with and not to trust that it was telling the truth. So you can't just go with what it says if you're writing about a nonfiction topic. If it's fictional and it doesn't, that's different. You can kind of work with what it comes up with, but just be aware that AI can get very creative with your work. In fact, we ended up removing an entire chapter because it was a total fabrication. It had no connection to anything that Gary had written or recorded, and it was just fanciful musing on the part of AI. So, have I mentioned to always fact check, always edit? So here's the goal. You want to set up a human-centered creative partnership and editing loop. Okay. And we, as the authors, have the supervision, have the oversight, we supply the expertise, and then our insights need to be the source of the writing, and then we elicit AI's machine learning to automate the work, to use its pattern recognition gifts, to use its organizing abilities. You want to use all of that as with your original work. So you draft, you upload the content, AI refines it, and then you edit for meaning and polishing of the work. Okay. Now, one other thing you can do is you can really ask it, you can tell it not to use derogatory or judgmental language, because sometimes it'll come up with stuff that's like, whoa. You can ask it to point out any language that could be construed as alienating for, a more diverse audience. Ask for that. You can ask AI to find any wording that doesn't reflect compassionate, trauma-informed writing, that could trigger sensitive readers, and it will comb through and find things like that. You can ask it to point out any inconsistencies or potential contradictions across chapters. So it's very, very useful. And I was impressed as a book coach at what it could do. And as a book coach, I was also very aware of how it could go off on its own. And you can't just, you had to pay attention to that. So if I can give one thing to take away from my part of this presentation, it's always edit your work and don't take anything for granted. So I'll turn it over to Gary now.
All right. Thanks for that, Jane. Let me go ahead and put my slide up here. Oops. What's happened? There we are. Okay, so before I get started, just to give you a little bit more information about me. As Jane has mentioned, we're both now retired. I've had 45 years in Unity ministry. And so I did my doctoral dissertation, was called Creating Thriving, Coherent, and Integral New Thought Churches Using an Integral Approach and Second-Tier Practices. And so I got connected up with Ken early on, around 2008 or 9. That's when he published an article I wrote for the Integral Practice. I forget the name of the Journal of Integral Theory and Practice. And so Jane and I have spent time at Ken's penthouse in Colorado, and so as she's mentioned, he's been a part of our Integral Ministry Practice Certificate program for the last 3 years, meeting over 7 times with us. And so he's agreed to do the foreword in my book, and he's really excited about it, and so I'm excited about it too. But the real miracle for me is that I'm not a writer. I mean, I've published several books, but all my books that have been published have been transcripts of talks I do. In other words, I talk, I download basically as opposed to write, and then my videos and writing is adopted for books. So I want to begin by talking about how I used my AI assistant, ChatGPT, to create an online book, 40,000 words so far, manuscript, and I've also done we've created an asynchronous online course. I want to talk about that, as well as published the website for all of that. So I'm going to start first with the introduction to integral ministry practice. So we've taught this program, which consists of 4 10-week quarters, and we take the summer off, so it's over a year for the entire course, and we've decided to create the first quarter as an introduction, asynchronous course that would be all online. That would be a prerequisite to the rest of the course that people would take as a part of the certificate course. And so our current online certificate program, as I mentioned, meets for 4 quarters, but the entire course is filled with hundreds of videos that I've created over the many years that I've worked with in the New Thought movement. And so I was in the process of creating this online course. I used AI to go through the videos of this course. In other words, I use Otter, OTR.ai, which you can upload to them video files, and it'll create a transcript, a word-for-word transcript of everything in the video, as well as a summary of it. And so I used AI to create 6 modules with over 28 lessons over those 6 modules, and each lesson would have a video, and it would have a summary of the video that AI created, and then I would ask AI to create a quiz, a 10 to 12 question quiz for each video lesson. And then the idea is that the student would watch the video, take the quiz, and if they got 80% correct, they could move on to the next lesson. But if they didn't get 80%, they would have to retake the quiz in order to be able to advance to the next lesson. So, so all of this was done with AI. But here's the thing: when I asked AI to come up with the quiz questions and let me know what the correct answer is, that we can train the learning platform as to what the correct answers are. So, as Jane mentioned, AI would commonly make up choices in the quiz. So if we're talking about spiral dynamics and the videos on that, and we have a question about well, what's green mean? What's it all about? It may come up with things like it's about macaroni and cheese, or it would come up with all kinds of crazy. Of course, macaroni and cheese is not the right answer, you see, but the right answer would stand out like a sore thumb. And so I had to tell ChatGPT to have all the answers only appear from the transcripts that I've sent. So even the wrong answers have to come from the transcripts. And so we had to do that. And so that worked out well. And then the process of creating the course was handed off to one of our colleagues. So that was the first project that we did, and as I mentioned, that we have to question AI, as Jane has mentioned, and that was my first lesson in really having to pay attention and be very precise with respect to what I was asking AI to do to kind of minimize some of the oversight that I would have. This was actually the third thing on the list. It got created after the book was written, but I wanted to talk about it just briefly right now. This is the landing page for the new website, www.integralministry.com. You might check it out and see what you think. And so I got the domain name integralministry.com, and I did that through Squarespace, which is a very good website builder. And I tried to use their website template, and I'm not a tech person, and so I got all frustrated about how to do that. I got my friend to agree that she would build the website for me, but she said, before I do that, I need for you to come up with your brand. And I said, what do you mean I have to come up with my brand? Anyway, she sent me all these questions that I need to ask, like who's my audience, and what was my objective or my purposes, questions that any web designer would ask their client. And so I decided I just let AI do that for me. I asked AI to come up with a brand for integral ministry practice, and it would ask me questions. And so that's how I created the branding for my website, is just asking AI to ask me the questions that were needed and necessary to build the website. And then when I had all that information, I was so delighted, so excited that I might be able to actually pull this off myself. Once I got into the web designers and AI web program, it would give me all these templates, all these selections, and so nothing was a fit for me. So I decided that I would ask AI to, here's a slide. Here's the Squarespace landing page. And so I asked AI, I said, hey, I'm using the Squarespace and I'm trying to create a website. Could you take me step by step in order for me to be able to build this thing? And I got to tell you, sure enough, that was the easiest, most smartest thing I did. And to use AI to build a website, you're providing all of the assets, all of the information. So AI is not going to do that for you. But if you have that information, it can tell you every single step in that journey. And that was one of the really great things for it to do that for me. All right, now I'm going to get into the big part of this for me, which was the book, the IMP book, Integral Ministry Practice, A New Architecture for Spiritual Community: How Purpose, Conscious Leadership, Developmental Design Transform the Future of Church. So I had no thought about writing a book 2 months ago. 2 months ago, what popped into my mind after I had built this course and after I had been in the process of downloading videos that I've uploaded on YouTube and then using Otter AI to create transcripts. I already had that practice, and AI already, in some ways, was trained with respect to the large body of work that I have created, hundreds of videos, thousands of pages of documents, and our entire course was basically uploaded to AI. And then I would, not being a writer, I'm not somebody who has the gift that Jane has. I don't consider myself a writer. I consider myself an author, but not a writer. I speak everything and I record everything and I transcribe everything, and then Jane pulls it all together, or AI organizes it. So that's how things unfold. So it took me several days to upload all the material that I had, but then I could ask questions, and it would know what to do with what I was asking. So I asked AI, "Can you help me write this book?" And it said, "Well, sure," And so it then looked at everything that I had been working with up to then, and proposed a 10-chapter outline. It just came up with that. And as I got into it, I thought, wow, this is really awesome. But at the same time, I was also kind of concerned that there are things that it was asking for that I was really unfamiliar with, such as your voice. And now I know what AI is talking about when it's referring to my voice. And so that was a constant thing that I had to work with respect to AI because I found that it realized that I was a minister, then all of a sudden it assumed that I was talking about churchy things. And I don't want to have any churchy things in this book. There's nothing in this book that has to do with Christianity or religion. It's just all about uh, how um, how integral theory and how working with developing people, creating developmental pathways within ministries as opposed to just programs, is really a key to creating sustainable ministry in the long run. So the idea is that I had to first work with AI until the voice was there, until the voice was correct. So what was written would sound like me. Because to be honest with you, some of the stuff that came up with sound better than me, and that would really bothered me because, and then I realized, and this was the amazing thing, that while I had I had this great body of work to be able to sort out with AI. The way AI sorted it out started to reveal things that I hadn't thought about before. Like one specifically, while in all of my materials that I uploaded, I I wouldn't necessarily say that the major context of those materials was all about development. That wasn't in my thinking when I was uploading that. But what AI produced was all about showing me how what I was really trying to kind of move forward that was unique, and this is what Ken really liked about this, was that I was creating a path a path of development as being the the on ramp for integral practice to unfold in ministry practices. So anyway, that was an important step in this process. In addition to that, one of the things that we noticed that really bugged the shit out of Jane after every time she would read a chapter is that it would start off basically every chapter would have a different version of the very same opening. And they're all different, but it was all redundant at the same time. So what we had to do is we had to go through chapter by chapter and remove the redundancies. Now AI will take care of that, but it doesn't necessarily do it the way it needs to be done when you're thinking about a book and having acquisition editors in the context of reviewing your book for possible publication. It's the red flag for all of that. So the neat thing is that AI was able to assist me in creating and writing this, um, and and really using AI as an assistant as opposed to it being the creator of the body of work. AI could not have done what it did without me and without Jane. And so what was created was something that was really uh, using AI as a tool, not as an author. So one of the things that was really helpful and very powerful is that after I finished the book, then I was considering who shall I ask to publish it. And so part of that process was really aided by AI because AI could give me a recommendation. Your body of work is worth being promoted to Shambhala Publications, Sounds True Publications, North Atlantic Books Publications. There's all kinds of quality publishers. AI could align my book and said this is what they're looking for. And in addition to that, AI created all the submission emails and cover letters and book proposals specific to each of those publishers that I chose. In addition to that, it selected the specific chapters associated with the specific publishers that I was submitting my book proposal to. So, so that was a very valuable help. In addition to that, it would do so in the context of, I use this word probably incorrectly, but pretending to be the acquisition editor. It pretended to be that and then critiqued the chapters I was encouraged to send to the publisher. So this was a process that really helped polish the effort to not only create those documents, cover letter and book proposal, sample chapters, table of contents, things of this nature. So all of that AI just really made it so much easier. And then the final thing here. This is my last slide, and I'll be done in just a moment. The whole idea of working with a manuscript. After Jane and excuse me, after I had run the entire manuscript through the lens of helping it be appropriate for the acquisition editors, the people who are reviewing my submissions and deciding if they want to go to the next step. After we did that, we realized that AI took out all the really great things that Jane and I really loved about what we were creating. And so we had to put it all back. And we had to go back and put back what was removed because it was deemed to be not quite in sync with the specific acquisition editor. So one of the challenges, this is the last thing I'll say, one of the challenges in my approach is that the integral ministry practice, the certificate program, was trying to teach people how to replicate what Jane and I had created at Unity Spiritual Center in Spokane. And so in many ways, the certificate program is about coaching them into implementation. But I was cautioned to not have anything in the book that was about implementation because it would be perceived as a training manual or an implementation manual, and that's not what these publishers wanted. They wanted to see something that was really unique and filling a gap that was missing in the integral lexicon. Okay, yeah, that's what she says. All right, I'm done. Let me get out of my. Um, okay. All right.
All right. Well, that was amazing. That was really, really like I loved all the background and everything. So let's go ahead and open up to questions. Who wants to ask questions? I know I have a bunch, but let's see what other people think. And please let us know which person because they have to toggle back and forth. So go ahead.
I just have one more thing to add, which is about the publishing aspect of it. Again, this is my training as a book coach, is to coach nonfiction writers in creating book proposals and finding agents or publishers that would be interested in all that. So again, AI is very helpful, but scrutinize its work. Don't just assume that it's going to do it correctly. So, Gary, who did you want to ask a question of?
Yeah, you said, I think it was you, Jane, that said in the training part, training AI, that you feed it examples of your writing and, let it know what your philosophical framework is.
Mhm.
And I was kind of curious about that process and why you would do that if you're not asking it to ghostwrite for you. So it seemed a little contradictory to me. Can you explain that?
Yeah, in that sense, it's more of say you're So I still speak on Sundays, and I would write sermons, and I might ask AI for a story on a certain topic that is in alignment with what I, how I speak. So it will often come up with something, and then I'll read it and go, nah, it's not. I might use one or two things that it comes up with, but I don't typically use any more than that.
Yeah.
But that's the purpose of it, is to help it in its research to find things that are in alignment with how you write. So that's where the research part of it can come in. It can be very
So,
helpful.
so the your writing is part of the research background.
Exactly. So yes, and really what you're asking it to do is to find things that are in alignment with the way you write. And just to give you a little tidbit here and there. As someone who writes sermons all the time, I'm always on the lookout for quotes. Another one is quotes or that kind of thing that can really, uh, work for me. So it's like having this wonderful research assistant. You can send it out and find some stuff for you, and it's very helpful for that. Yeah.
Jasmine.
Jasmine, go ahead, and then Jendon after that.
Hi. Wow, I'm loving this because I, like Gary, I don't consider myself a writer either, but I have some books that want to come through me. So it is, I have been diving into AI over the last few months. I did actually write for 2 years without AI, just getting my story down. So it's great to know that I can use that to train AI to have my voice and that I can venture more with that. Um, by the way, I have been using, oh, what am I saying here? I've been using Claude AI, Opus, and one of my books is going to be a bit of a memoir, and the other one is going to be weaving my story into like the modality that I have and showing how that shows up in the integral development in a chiastic way. So it's great because it's very early stages. I'm using it to research and everything. But even in this early stage, I'm noticing that it's helping me with its mistakes, with its hallucinations. It's helping me to really know my stuff. Like I'm
Yeah.
getting to know it better and to be a lot more discerning. And also, I used it for creating a Squarespace website as well. And
Mhm.
I'm challenged technically massively, and I also used and was blown away by how Claude could help me navigate not just Squarespace, but the other um, like Acuity and different things like that better than any help desk could. It even helped me write code into Squarespace to create my own things, which I'll put my website on there
Wow.
too, just so. And I'd also love to see everybody else's websites because I'm new and work. So put that in the chat for me. But my question is first is how it sounds like you were using ChatGPT, and is there a reason you chose ChatGPT over something like Claude AI or any of the other ones for the specific tasks you were doing?
So, so there really isn't a really good reason. The reason that I have is that, well, it's on my computer. It's ChatGPT is on my computer, but then I had to upgrade it because the standard version not as robust as the ChatGPT Plus is, and so um, I just used it. But and then I started using others Word has, I believe, an AI feature in it. I started using Word to to upload my entire book to kind of work with the entire book, but it, it it wouldn't work the way I wanted it. GPT would run out of memory. I couldn't use it for that, so I had to go chapter by chapter. Um, I don't have a reason other than that was the most convenient, but I did discover a major flaw in ChatGPT, and that is you start a thread, and if you start a thread and you're writing chapters, all of a sudden it gets full and says this doesn't work anymore, and there's no access to it anymore. And so it's almost as if you don't if you're not copying things from your thread to kind of retrain AI, if it loses the thread, then you've lost it. And so I had that experience. So I'm sure there are other better AIs than ChatGPT, but I just haven't gone there yet.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just did a little quick Google because I just wondered as well. And it does sound like there are some differences, maybe with helping ChatGPT might be better at helping um, your unique voice. But it was my understanding that Claude AI uses ChatGPT. One thing just to say on what you just said, I know that I did change the settings in Claude AI to remember all of the other conversations and include them in the resourcing for the conversation
Awesome.
currently having. So that it's possible to do that too. And it might be if you change the settings.
Claude AI, is that it?
Claude AI, and I'm using Opus because there's three. Opus is like the high research deep dive aspect
Okay.
of it, but I do pay for it. Yeah.
This is so
Thanks, Jasmine.
interesting. Love it.
Um,
Who's
one thing
next?
I want to,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
one thing I want to say is that publishers are now asking, by the way, how much you have used AI in your work. And you need to be very honest about what ChatGPT is or what AI has done. Same within our courses now. We were working with Unity's Spiritual Worldwide Institute, and what they started putting in their syllabus. If you're using AI, you have to tell us where you're using it. It's now it's in the educational field, publishing field, all that. So just be aware of that. Jandon, hello. Are you coming to us from Spain or where are you?
Oh, I'm in Stratford, Canada.
Oh, okay.
So I've been in Canada for a couple weeks. My time in Spain ran out.
Ah,
Um,
okay. Well, welcome.
so
Yeah. Did you have a question about AI? Yes.
yeah, well, I'll have a comment is that
Mhm.
I think that you can take that creativity out of AI, but I'll have to double check that with my son, who's computer geek. So the other thing is there is one AI site that um, uses multiple AIs. So
Oh, yeah. Mm.
that might be a thing that people could use. Uh,
That could be
my
Claude.
my question is so I teach online and students submit papers, and so if you could do it quickly, maybe most of the other people aren't interested in how you can tell it's AI, but I'm very interested because my students' papers are way better than they used to be. Uh,
I know. Yeah.
so, and I sometimes it's real obvious because
Yeah.
it's way too sophisticated. It's a graduate level uh, thing that they're talking, the way they're writing. That's pretty obvious, but I can't always tell whether it's AI or not.
Yeah. We require our students to tell us when they've been doing it. However, I did have one class with their final assignment. They kind of blew it off. I could tell they all just went on and asked AI the questions and threw in the answers. And and yeah, that kind of annoyed me a little bit. So I changed up the assignment so that it would be harder to do that, right? But Yeah, you can usually tell. I mean, the more we see AI and things, the more important it is for us to be able to spot it too. That's the other thing about it.
Well, overall in my course, I've found that students receiving a 4.0 went from maybe 3, 4, 5 out of 30 to half the class.
Wow.
So we've got some, we really have to adjust our courses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Bet.
to throw my hat in the
Yeah.
ring on this question. So I am writing a sci-fi novel set in 20 years. I'm sorry, 30 years. And I'll paste my on my Substack, which I'm putting some things that are spilling out of that into it. But I really think we need to change education, right? It's like think about debate. Debate is something you can do research in AI beforehand, and then you go and have a conversation with students, and the students have to defend themselves. There's no way AI is going to do that yet. I mean, maybe later they will be able to. But I think just having different ways of grading people might be something we have to rethink because,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's like that might be just have to rethink how do we do it project based where people have to build something real at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's kind of what I'm rethinking about how to do education. But anyways,
Yeah.
that's my two.
Yes. It's a big question, Bet, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah, David.
Yeah, I heard the other day that a lot of professors in university now are replacing the essay with seminar.
mm,
So you can show up with your AI generated uh, speech, but then you have to defend it. So you have to, and the attitude is, if you want the AI to do all the work, that's fine, but you have to learn the material, and you have to be able to think about it in a way that's constructive. So the end result is the education is achieved. It's just achieved in a different way.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. And we're looking at integral education here. So
mhm.
it's really important that we get that whole picture. Yeah, exciting stuff. Yeah, Gary, did you have something?
I write a Substack, and one of the things I notice is I'll ask a question just as a starter because it's an idea, and I'll get into a dialogue with Claude, and 2 hours later, um, it feels like we're inventing the universe. It's so amazing, some of these conversations. And I'm looking around seeing, is anybody listening to this?
Yeah, it's like Star Trek.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah,
computer.
yeah.
That conversation. Well, I love, Jazz, when you said, AI's hallucinations. That word just kind of flew across as you're talking, but it cracked me up thinking, I mean, it can lead to something greater. That's the beauty of it. As Gary said, he saw things in his work that he hadn't seen before. It was able to put patterns together in a way that it was like, oh my God, this is about development, and it helped us to refine it. So there's really some beautiful possibilities working with the creativity. Um, just as long as we're mindful that, it can also go off and make up lots of weird stuff. I couldn't believe it with that friend of mine. I'm like, hey, I want to read this paper. It sounds great. She's like, yeah, there's no paper. Jasmine, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been spending quite a bit of time familiarizing myself with AI lately and just going into some because it's got enough of my body of work that I can have some pretty deep conversations with it now. And
Awesome.
and I've corrected it enough times that we're really getting somewhere. And I've had tears in my eyes in some of the conversations because of how deep or vast or the epiphanies that have happened. They're very conversational. They're not very transactional. They're very yeah, just the directions it can go in have really helped me come to some deeper realizations. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, especially the work what you're writing about here. You're doing memoir and marrying it with your own with principle that I mean, if I'm understanding your description, that's a really wonderful way of helping to understand something greater. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love to read your work when it's done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and let's all put our Substacks. Gary Shumway has one, whoever else,
Yeah.
and Dr. Gary and Dr. Jane. When can we read this book? When's it
Um,
going to be out?
it's the beta readers it's that we've had a lot of beta readers reading it already, so it's ready to be published. So we'll let you know when it's ready. We're hoping soon. Yeah.
So you teased us with a bunch of publishers, but you didn't tell us which one took the bait.
So no one yet. So it's each publisher has its own process. So for instance, one publisher after I submitted said, "Okay, if you don't hear from us in 8 weeks, forget it." Another one said, "Give us 12 weeks," and another one said, "Give us 6 months." So the three publishers is Shambhala. We tried Sounds True, but they're not taking book submissions right now. Um, and let's see, North Atlantic Books was another one that was recommended, and Inner Traditions is another publisher. So those three, and so um, all of them know that Ken Wilber's writing the foreword for this. Ken Wilber is really excited about the book, so he's very generous with his praise and appreciation. So we believe that his forward will advance the book to these publishers because he's anyway. We'll see.
All right, well, we have only 1 minute left, so I'm just going to go ahead and do our little closing. Well, this was amazing. Let's all put it together for our speakers today. This was super interesting, and just
Thank you.
congratulations on getting this done. And anytime you write a book, it's always it's work. And we appreciate you doing that work. And please come back next month, and maybe by then you'll tell us which book, I mean, where it is and how we can buy it early if that's possible. But yeah, please go ahead and take another moment here. I see a bunch of Substacks in here. Click on them. If you have ever published a book, I know David, you are republishing a book. I'm trying to remember, right? David
I've got
Coles.
two. Well, the book
You
that
want to
I've
put
got
that?
with Untimely is a new one,
Okay.
and I've also got God Blesses Everyone, which is not a religious book. It's like a sequel of Christmas Carol. I'm bringing that one out. I'm dropping that one from its current publisher, and I'm bringing that one back out in an annotated edition, so it'll be somewhat enlarged and at
Okay.
a better price point.
All right. So those are all future things then.
Yeah, I haven't got anything. Well, I mean, you could go and buy my God Blesses Everyone right now on Amazon, but
Is it funny?
yeah, it's
I gotta get it.
what would you call it? Edgy humor.
Wow.
Oh,
I
cool.
I love humor. It's so good. Cool. All right. Well, so next month I'm going to be doing an overview of how I'm using AI for my research. And I am just so excited about this because research is the best thing for AI. I think it does a really good job and I can't wait. So I hope everyone comes back and see you guys next month.